Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. There were a few others that signed up, but since y'all came on time, roughly, we're going to go ahead. And we are recording this, so don't say anything bad about TBR or anything like that. If you're so inclined, we always say that as a joke here. But this is kind of just the teaching version of the faculty development plan. Even if you are interested in the full development plan, I think this will be beneficial, like you said a little bit earlier. I'm going to move pretty quickly, and I will, of course, make this available to you if you want it for some reason. And then we will be doing just a little kind of a practice thing. The goal of this workshop is to get you to start thinking about and understanding all the different facets within the domain of teaching that you have to consider, and see if you can't be systematic and strategic about how you approach your teaching responsibilities. The full development plan is the same thing, only also applied to research and service domains. Okay, so that's enough of an intro, I think. But feel free, this is going to be informal, and so interrupt me as we go along. I'm going to throw up here the what I consider the main facets of the teaching domain. A group of us got together and we sat down and think, what do you have to do when you're teaching? And one class and 4 classes or 5 classes, what are all the things that we have to do? So we kind of looked at that systematically and came up with, well, there's the actual design of the course and the development of that. You got to put it together. Even if it's been taught before in your department, right, you still have to figure out how you're going to do it and deliver it. So there's delivery, there's design, there's development, there's delivery, there's activities, assessments, feedback, how are you going to grade and when, and what kinds of tests and all that kind of stuff. And then there's opportunities to develop professionally with regard to your teaching. Our group, when we sat down and started thinking about this stuff, we kind of got depressed because it's like, yikes, there's a lot of stuff, and the more we dug into it, we realized how much it really goes into teaching a particular course or multiple courses. So I'm going to go through each of these facets and just highlight some of the things that are required with balancing these. And so the theme that you'll see is when you're coming up with a plan for your teaching, think about ways that you can kind of put things off for the time being because they're not as pressing or high priority, and bring closer to the front boiler or the burner, the things that you're actually going to need to do or you're required to do. That's part of the balancing. We already know that, but we hope that if you're strategic about it, systematic about it, it'll actually make it easier. So I'm going to argue that it's both within a single course, so you could focus on just one class if you want, or across all the courses that you're teaching. This should be applicable. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that design development probably not going to be applicable to you. So I'll go because you're already teaching right now, and this stuff has probably already been decided for you. But you may be thinking about your department wants you to teach a new course. You haven't taught it yet. They're going to want you to teach a new course if you haven't, potentially. So when are you going to start developing that? Are you going to put a proposal? I don't know if you understand, but the new course proposal process is very convoluted and very complicated. It has to go through this committee, that committee, that committee. There's college committees, there's departmental, there's a university curriculum committee, all this other kind of stuff. It's very time consuming. I wouldn't start doing that if it's my first semester. Okay? If they want me to teach a new course, should I work on the proposal of a new course? I want to just keep my head above water and make sure I'm actually doing the courses that I'm supposed to be doing effectively. So as you're working in your process of teaching, are there things you want to change or you want to update or modify? You can do some of that stuff on the fly, right? We're suggesting, and when I say we at the end, you'll see there's a group of us that have been meeting and talking about this. We suggest you actually resist that impulse also while you're teaching it. Because unless it's a really crucial thing and it's an obvious error or something like that I want to go ahead and correct. But if I realize there's a better way of teaching this next time around, then I'm going to keep a note of that. And maybe I could go ahead and revise, but it's typically not necessary because that was yesterday's class, right? And there's no way to go back. But do keep track of that. This may be outside of your control, new textbooks and things. That's going to happen too. If you know when the next edition is coming out of the book that you're using in a couple of your classes, that's crucial because they're going to adopt it most likely, your department, or you're going to be asked to adopt it and there are going to be changes with that. And some of this stuff is out of your control, some of it isn't. Your department may want you to move something to hybrid or online. When should you do that? How should you do that? Okay. You get the idea? Can you start to see why we're starting to get depressed the more we're thinking about all this stuff? When you think about a course or multiple courses that you have to do? Okay. So this is the actual teaching of the course, what we consider course delivery. So this is what hopefully you already know how to do, or you're learning on the fly how to do. Being prepared for class every day, things like that, actual delivery, what kind of activities, when should you try them out, what are you going to add new things as you're going along. I've talked to some people this semester that are trying some things, and the first half of the class was really chaotic, they've reported, and now they're starting to get a little bit more settled in. There's risks involved, and you have to, but we're getting from the administration, I don't know if you saw Dr. McPhee's email just a little while ago, it's like all this stuff we have to do to make sure our students are engaged. We're getting all these messages about, are you engaging your students? You better, or else you're going to get your hand slapped or whatever. Yeah. It's all tied to the funding formula. It's a bigger picture kind of stuff, and that's what you're going to get hearing. So, it's not just teaching your classes. It's everything else, and you're going to be pulled in multiple directions. I'm trying to set the stage for you to encourage you to be strategic and systematic in developing a plan. Okay. Examples of assessments, feedback. Okay. Here's where, do you like to give particular kinds of assessments, exams, multiple choice, or essay, or short answer? Still figuring it out. When are you going to write the questions? For me, I decided this semester in one of my classes, I was going to give them a pre-class quiz to make sure that they read the material. And it took me weeks before the semester started, literally weeks, to generate those 200 multiple choice items, 10 per class for like 20 class sessions or whatever. It was hugely time consuming. I got nothing else done during that whole time. Be strategic, about when you're going to do that, if you're going to commit to a particular kind of assessment. So lots of things to consider. There are things to consider too about when should you give your tests. This is when you're teaching multiple courses. Do you give them all according to that calendar? This is midterm week, so everybody gets midterms at the same time. You know how, as students, we were inundated and with,
it was all at the same time.
I joke with my students that there's a secret cabal that we all get together as faculty and see how well you handle stress. That's why we do this way.
Single night.
And they bought that. They thought, well, I believe you. That seems like what happens. And, for me, I would try to be more strategic about that because I have to grade them. And so I split them out. Everything isn't all that same thing. That's where you can be a little more strategic. It's too late for that now. You've already done your syllabi. But looking to next semester, maybe I can move that up or move that back. So I'm not grading 4 different classes, midterm exams, in the same 2-day period. We have some control over that. That's one of the points that we're trying to make here. Then there are professional development opportunities, like coming to the workshop today. Hey, of course your professional conferences, you may not know that, but there are often teaching-related workshops and things like that. So that's all part of, all of this is involved just in the domain of teaching, okay? Now when you're talking about research and service, multiply that by 3, okay? And see how much stuff we have to do as faculty. Okay, I'm trying to paint a bleak picture for you here. Okay, this is where a faculty development plan comes in to the rescue. If we had music, it would be, da, 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 da. Here it comes. All right, we call it an FDP. What I'm talking about today is a teaching development plan instead. The FDP is just the full version of that. It's a long-term plan for optimizing your teaching activities. Have you ever had a long-term plan for optimizing? No, we hardly ever do that. We're not taught that. Our colleagues don't do that, etc. So this is what we're trying to advocate. And it's really quite simple. It's a 4-step process. And I'll go through these in a little bit of detail here. Self-assessment, setting goals, how you're going to achieve those goals, and then an end outcome assessment after some set time period. like the end of the year in April or whatever. Okay. So again, you can set your time frame however you want to do that. You could start this right now and figure out what you want to do the rest of the semester and into spring to accomplish by the end of your current year. That could be your plan. That's what I would encourage, given where we are right now. Okay, everything clear? Why do a faculty development plan? If you haven't already realized this, you're going to realize it, that your expectations for teaching, for being a teacher for one thing, but for teaching that class, and that class, okay? We have found those expectations tend to be vague. They tend to be difficult. People can't explain it to you very well. Here's the course outline, just follow that. That's about what they typically tell us. And I typically tell people that sometimes, unfortunately. Okay? Whatever the expectations are, the students have to reach these. Do you know what learning outcomes are? Student learning outcomes? Those are now laid out in the syllabi. They're supposed to be, as well as in our course outline. Okay? They're supposed to be synced. And all that reaches up to the department level, ultimately to the university level. That's not why I got into teaching, to have to follow all these kind of things. All of that makes it like, what am I supposed to do? Is it very clear what I'm supposed to do? Are the outcomes defined for you already? If so, good. Your department has actually put them together for you. That's great. But sometimes they seem to not be very well written. I don't know if you ever noticed that. People don't know how to write learning outcomes sometimes, and we disagree about them, and so on. And they also change over time, potentially. If your department's currently revising the core course, the gen ed course or whatever, much of that revision effort or that curriculum redesign effort will involve or center around learning outcomes. So you have to be aware of those. And so doing the plan like this, helps you to make sure that you understand the expectations and implement them successfully. That's kind of the storyline for this particular reason. Why do an FDP? Okay, so here's some examples of what you should be able to get out of it, being strategic and systematic and planful in your teaching. So as you can see, it's not something that people typically do. It's not something that you might be thinking about. If you have a departmental mentor, a mentor may have suggested something like that. Your department may actually ask you to do some kind of a plan like this. If so, great. You can kind of follow this template unless they have one already that you're supposed to follow. That's really good. If you have a mentor, then this is the kind of thing you would share with them. Here's what I'm thinking of doing so I can manage my teaching load. What do you think? Get that feedback. If you don't have such a mentor, we'll help you with that. You can share that with me. That's part of the Faculty Fellows program. If you're participating in that, you'll get that benefit. Setting realistic goals for yourself. It depends on the culture of your department. How much is teaching valued as opposed to research or service? And it depends on your position and your situation. If you're an FTT or tenure track or what have you. Okay? So, of course, you got to take into account those considerations. For FTTs and adjuncts, and for those of us who are going up for promotion and tenure eventually, this is a good way, we argue, this is a good way to help you not be unpleasantly surprised at your third year review or when you go up or when the contract is renewed or what have you. So one of the nice things tied to this little point is if you've done that and if you shared it and you've been kind of systematic in creating this and showing how you're developing and how you're thinking about your teaching, that's a record that you can keep. And you can present that in your portfolio down the road. So, yeah, it's documentable, and that's what we encourage you to do. That's another reason, just in itself, to do a development plan like this. Look, I did this. I may not have implemented it. I might not have reached the outcomes that I had, but at least I'm thinking about it. And because the norm is people aren't thinking about it, it's a plus. It's an overall win for you to be like this. So you see where I'm coming from here, I hope. And then from your own individual perspective, just selfishly, I guess I'm looking for ways that will help me to be a better teacher. I mean, I think if you're in this profession, you are going to want to know those things. So use this to do that. So you'll see when we get to the actual nuts and bolts of doing one of these things, it's like, it's up to you. What are your goals and what do you want to do? People say things like, I want to learn how to engage my students more effectively, or I want to learn this particular method because I'm going to translate it into this course and that course. So I need some training outside of the classroom in order to be a more effective teacher. Da, 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 da. So think along those lines, if you can. Okay, so here we go to the components, and then we're going to just do a little sample exercise. And if I'm talking too fast, slow me down, because I have that tendency to talk too fast. So the self-assessment part of it is, as you'll see, is what are your strengths, your weaknesses, what are your areas that you'd like to improve upon within the teaching domain. And so I'm going to ask you to do that, to think about that, with respect to one of your courses, let's say. And then, based on the results of your self-assessment, what goals would you have? And short-term, long-term is defined by you. This semester, by the end of this year, over the next 2 or 3 years, I'd like to do this. So you control the applicability or the range of application of this plan. We generally recommend it's a yearly thing, but you could do it longer than that if you want. And like I said before, what are your plans to achieve those goals? That's the achievement plan. Then the outcome assessment is at the end of your time period. In this case, it'd be the end of this semester or the end of the spring semester. Did you accomplish those goals? I don't know. It's kind of, on some level, it sounds kind of hokey to do something like this. Like, why do I need to do that? I know what I'm doing, you know. But I've become a convert to this because I didn't have anything like this. And the people that have been doing this or using this are really singing its praises, basically, because it opens up opportunities. It helps me to not only present myself in a way that I'm serious about improving my teaching or teaching effectively just in general, but it's a reflective activity for me too. It's like, what do I really want to do? Did that class really work well? Why didn't it? So you get into that mentality. At the same time, you're trying to do all these other things. Okay, so here's a little guidance about goal setting. This comes from research in like psychology and other areas where they focus on what's an effective goal, what do we know about when people set goals, are they able to actually achieve them? What are examples of bad goals?
Realistic and all these.
That's right, exactly that. So you'll see, here are the things. Realistic, number one, reachable. So when you're thinking about goals for yourself, short or long term, are they reachable? Are they relevant? All self-defined, of course. I can't define these for you. Are they concrete, and can they be quantifiable? That really helps if you can meet these criteria. It will really help in order for you to talk about it with others, but also to document whether you've met those goals. So realistic, reachable, relevant, concrete, and what do we, okay, here we go. So I'm going to go through an example of setting a goal here now for you. And then after this, going through these 5 or 6 steps, I'll give you a chance to think about that and do something for your own course. So what's the goal? Make it specific. It can be difficult, but achievable. So my screen keeps zapping out here. Gina, that cord must be. Okay, so here's an example of not a good goal. I want to teach better. You can see why that's not a good, I mean, it's a lofty goal. It's nice. Everybody wants to teach better, but what's that mean? Contrast that with, I want to develop ways to get my students more engaged with the course material. That's what we're hearing. Everybody needs to be doing that. You're all supposed to be doing that. We are all supposed to be doing that. Much more specific, teaching better is how you're going to quantify that. Engagement, you can quantify that. You can come up with ways that I'm going to make sure my students are more engaged by bringing in more group activities, by flipping the classroom and using the in-class part of it for more discussion and problem solving and answering questions, points of clarification. See where I'm going with that? Just a way to think about it, think about your teaching as, it's kind of like a problem analysis or a task analysis in industrial psychology, organizational psychology. They do this thing called a task analysis or job analysis, where you just look at all the characteristics and features of that, what everybody has to do. So that's essentially what we're doing here. It's bringing a job analysis or task analysis approach to your teaching. Okay, so here's another goal example, setting a deadline. So if I do want to engage my students more with the course material, what am I going to do? Next semester, you could start this semester, but next semester I'm going to try out new student engagement. And I would probably be even more specific here. I'm going to try out the do-do-do technique even better than just new student engagement techniques. Okay, so if you're going to do that, that's your goal. This is when you're going to do it, and what are the things that are going to prevent you from doing it? Is it you? Is it the material? Is it not going to work? The students resist teams and work groups because they hate working in teams and work groups. Maybe I shouldn't use a team or work group approach. I don't know. So you do need to identify those obstacles. You need to then think about the opposite of that. The flip of that is who can help you with implementing these new techniques. And we can do that here at the center, but also in all of your departments. You have colleagues who can do that. We're getting better and better with new people that we're bringing in who have more training and things like that, and other people that have been here a long time that are trying out new things. That you just have to ask around a little bit and find out if people can help you with those particular techniques. Gina is trained as a design specialist, so she's had tons and tons, decades of experience, and she's really old. You know, she has all kinds of experience in using all these different techniques, and so take advantage of those. That's another theme. You know, we're always saying that out of the center here, is take advantage of our resources. So this is a little bit of a little hazy kind of one, but I still include it as a step, is to actually visualize what it would be like if the class is the ideal for you, or if my students were really engaged. This is what I did basically when I did the kind of, not exactly flipping of my class, but I required my students, I forced them to read the material by giving these pre-class quizzes that I spent all 2 weeks putting together. I was basically saying, if they did that, would that increase the level of discussion in the class, because it's a graduate seminar discussion. And typically I'm the one that was leading the discussion, and I got tired of doing that. And it's worked great. I think what I visualized as happening actually is happening. And they really like it, and I really liked it. So, and I think it was tied back to, it would work so much better if they came in asking questions without me prompting them. And this is what it's helped to do. So there's sometimes little things like that that you can do that have really major effects on how the course is.
Makes it easier on you too. Work your way out of the job.
Well, yes and no. It makes it more challenging for me because they're asking good questions.
Yeah, they're thinking about it on different levels.
So we're much deeper in our level of discussion than we've been in the past because of just that little technique. You know?
I found that process scary as a young, brand new
Oh,
instructor.
intimidated you.
Yeah, it did.
Who
Because,
wouldn't do it?
yeah, because I'm going, oh, these people probably know as much about it as I do. A few of them, especially at the graduate level.
Yeah. In this course, I hope they know as much as me because then we can really get into some good discussions, and that's happened. So anyway, all of that to get back to, it's not, I'm in psychology, so I'm okay, I'm comfortable with, but even like exercise science and things like that, for performance, effective performance, visualization is like a really common technique or tactic that they use to train, these elite athletes and things like that. So imagine what it would be like if the course was the ideal for you. And then can you actually get to that point of attaining that ideal? Okay, so still getting specific, and all this is setting a goal. See, even goal setting is very complicated. You thought, okay, here's my goal. All you got to do is come up with it. Now, guess what? There's all kinds of different aspects of it. What do you want to do? And here again is where we can help you. Your colleagues can help you if you have a mentor in your department who can help you. But you do want to list the things that you'd like to acquire, or the things that you'd like to do. That's all part of that goal. Okay. So finally, this is more of how you're going to implement your goal. Once you've clarified what it is, then there's lots of different things that you can do here. So these are examples of suggestions on what you could do. You're going to involve your colleagues. Do you have some colleagues who are really successful at engaging their students? That's the goal, this particular goal that we're using as an illustration. Yeah, I do. I have some in my department who seem to, the students just like love them and stuff. So I'm like, what are you actually doing in your class? Why do they love you? Ask them. Find out. Say, well, I don't think I could do that. Or I could do that. And so you can, pick up on that kind of expertise that is around. We do have a good level of expertise. All departments have people that are really good teachers. So you just got to figure out, what am I going to implement that plan? Time is, very valuable, and it's not something we have a lot of, particularly if you have to balance teaching, research, and service. Even if you have to do teaching, the people that are the full-time teachers here, the teaching positions, are typically teaching 4 or 5 classes a semester, which is, how do you balance that? That's just like, I'm really good. When I taught multiple sections of courses or multiple different courses, like, that one worked really well. This one is not going so well. What's going on here? Oh my goodness, should I devote much more attention to this and prep for it and all that kind of stuff? Juggling act. What do? Fly by the seat of your pants? Okay. So I hope this has given you a little bit of a background so that you can try this out. So this is the template page for the teaching domain. So just take a few minutes. I say 10 minutes here, but you may not need that much. Just work your way through then and do a little practice. I will send you the digital version of this if you'd like, so that you'll have a copy of that if you don't already have it. Pick a single class or pick your general teaching style that you'd like to change. Up to you. And don't worry about the end of your outcome at the bottom. That's just something you get to after you try to implement. Good? Need more time? No?
First one.
Goals? Self-assessment.
Self-assessment.
Oh.
We can go all day.
Whoa, don't be too critical.
Psychology.
What was easy about that? Did you find? I think we know what was difficult, maybe. Or what was difficult about doing just this little.
The self-assessment to me was fun. Where do I fit? How do I fit in? I'm still so new.
And haven't gotten feedback?
Not a whole lot. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm just casually asking my classes. What do you think?
One of the things that people do is like a mid-semester kind of check-in. We're actually working on a program here where we will come into your class. We won't start this till the spring, but we will come into your class and do a structured external assessment for your eyes only. So when you see that announcement come out, if you want something like that, we're piloting it this semester. We think it's going to be really cool. And a lot of departments don't do that. You may have somebody come in and observe you. That may be a requirement in your department. This is something different from that that will be awesome.
You say your eyes only.
This is something that could be used in your tenure package.
It could be too if you like what your eyes see. Yeah. Right.
That's always the best kind of
Yes. Yeah. So we will do that. We will provide a report to you. So that would be an example of getting the feedback that you currently don't have. So coming up with the assessment part was difficult. Was that true for all of you?
Well, I mean, that self-reflection. I mean, I'm in a place where I understand where you're coming from. It's like, wow, you know, we've kind of been given these courses. Here you go.
Sink or swim?
You know. And
Guess what? Sink or swim is pretty common here at the university, despite what I think is kind of a more progressive, if you want to call it that, approach, because we have to take it more seriously. We have them teaching and especially engaging students. That's the thing. Everybody's talking about that. It may be different 5 years from now, but there is an emphasis on that. So
probably always some of that at any university. Some of that, so they hope, probably realistically.
there's always some of that sink or swim, I think, for sure. And we're trying to get away from that. Depends on your department. So, okay, let's keep going, huh? So what do you do next? So here's the point where now I can send you the digital version of this if you want. You can also just do it in writing. What I didn't include on the back page of this is a signature sheet, which is basically if you have a mentor, a supervisor, a peer, a colleague, anybody you want to pick, a department chair, you go ahead after you develop this and meet with them about it. Say, this is what I'm thinking. Do you think this is realistic? Is this a good idea? It's really valuable for multiple reasons, right? To get accurate feedback, are you right in the goals that you're set based on what other people in my position have done? Is this like realistic? They can tell you. They can also see that you're serious about improving your teaching or ensuring that you teach at a high level consistently, right? So there's like an impression management component to this. Or you can just keep it yourself and not share it with anybody. It's really flexible and it's up to you on how you want to use it. You can, if you don't want to, distribute it locally in your department, come and talk with us. That's one of the things that we do out of the Faculty Fellow program is we'll meet with you about your broader plan. And I have met with lots of faculty on their plans, and it really is interesting because some are like, I just have a few things, major things I'm wanting to do, and here's the way I'm going to do it. Others have, I have 15 things that I'm going to do, and here are my plans to do that. To the point where I've asked on occasions, like, this seems like a lot. Can you do that? Yes, I'm a very organized person, and I'm doing all these things right now. More power to you, The fact is that, in this case, she articulated all those things and put them to paper, basically, and then was able to share that with her mentor. Okay, so that's what I just said. Before the semester begins, ideally, see, we're at a point now where it's hard to make changes, but it isn't. This is also a good point where you can say, I want to do this differently next time, or next semester, if I'm teaching the same class, here's how I'm going to revise that. That's probably your best use of this planning at this point, given where we are in the semester. So then it's just a matter of signing it yourself, sharing it. Part of what I think is a good idea for a faculty development plan is to share, because it's not just you then. There's some value to putting it out in the public domain. There's actually research on this that suggests that if other people are aware of what your goals are, you're more likely to try to work on and ensure that you successfully. Whereas if you just keep your goals secret to yourself, then there's less responsibility.
You're less likely to do it.
Yeah, you're less likely to do it. So that's why we say, find a person you're comfortable with. You don't want it to work against you. You don't want your department chair to say, this is terrible. Why are you doing this? But if that's really how they feel, you want to know that, because then I got to shift. Okay, what should I be doing instead of help me? It's an effort to force some mentoring that you may or may not be getting in your department. And the norm across this university, and probably many others, is that there isn't as much mentoring, formal mentoring. So this is a way to kind of push that on an individual basis without having to change the culture of your department. Bigger picture issue. Okay, so then if you do have one and you're implementing it, say in the spring, then at the end of the year, that's the time to go back. That is a crucial step for any kind of goal setting. Again, the research is very strong on that you monitor what you're doing, and then at the end you see if you've actually met that. Because some of your goals, even if they, your peers, your department chair says, these are good goals, they might be unrealistic for you. You really couldn't do that, and maybe you should shift. So what we advocate is do this on a regular basis on whatever time frame is good for you, whether that's a year or 2 years or whatever. It's kind of an empirical question. If you do this, if our new faculty coming in are doing this, does it increase the chances that they're going to succeed? We're not collecting data on this, but I can't see how it wouldn't increase the chances. Because if you don't do this, then you're really like a pinball. You just get knocked all over the place, and then you try to survive, and that's the norm. That's been our norm here for quite some time. And then you just keep. That's what I mean by lather, rinse, and repeat. Don't you love that on the shampoo bottles? Like, I never stop washing my hair if I follow these directions. Okay. And then lastly, let's see. These are just some resources. And like I said, I can share this with you if you want more, but these are things that we offer out of the center. And so we have various themed workshop series this semester, this year. Of course, we're going to focus on student engagement because they've told us to focus on student engagement. No, that's not really the case. Even if we weren't forced to focus on engaging our students, wouldn't we want to be engaging our students anyway? It's like, of course you would. So it's a good thing. We've worked with students with disabilities. We're going to have some on that, and military veteran students. We have series on that. So yeah, it depends on who you're working with, and you can kind of fit in terms of specific workshops. And they're also teaching mentoring. Some of you might be aware of that. Your department, if it does not have that formal in place, and I don't think any of your departments does, other departments on campus are really good that way. They have 2 mentors assigned who come in and observe you and watch you 4 times during the year, and they give you feedback, and it's just for your eyes only, and it's developmental, and that's great. We all should be doing that. We're not all doing that. We have some limited resources where somebody who's been trained as a mentor can actually work with you, and some of you have been aware of that we sent that announcement out at the beginning of the year that if you're doing faculty fellows, you could do that. You could do that in the spring as well. I wish we had that when I was coming up as a tenure track many years ago. Because I would have taken advantage of that. We had nothing in Iowa. There's no guidance. It was sink or swim, typical thing. I had them.
But only because it's been recently mandated from above.
I've got one and I want one. So yeah, I have one.
Yeah. So good. I mean, you should. We should. Yeah, the informal mentoring programs, they don't work. They just kind of fizzle out, and there's all kinds of not really appropriate or acceptable dynamics of that. Like, why should I go and approach them because I'm just bothering them, and I don't want to appear like I don't know what I'm doing because that could work against me. And we could talk a lot about that. So this kind of of a plan, though, it's what I like about it and why I would have used it if I was in a situation like that. I would, I mean, it's just really like, very specific. And here's all it is. It's just what I think about doing. What do you think? You don't have to really mentor me about this. Do you think this is a good idea? Talk to members of your promotion and tenure committee in your department, or your rehire committee, whoever is responsible for whether you stay. What do you think? Does this sound like a good plan? And then, of course, take advantage of the resources that we have. And then these are the people, you probably don't know any of these people, but they're in College of Business, Agribusiness, College of Business, and Math. That's the group that those of us that sat together and kind of, what do you have to do when you have to teach? And ended up having a negative mood and being part of this group. This is a lot. Now we have to do other stuff? If you're yikes.
So when you're thinking about these goal setting, I mean, one of the things that I struggle with is that I set these goals, but I haven't done anything formalized like this. Because a lot of times it's informal goals that I have for myself. But I find that having been in academia for a couple of years, that the demands on your time are rarely something you can predict over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And so goal setting a year in advance sometimes becomes frustrating because the time that you may have set aside, these deadlines that you may have set aside for these goals are constantly getting moved because new deadlines are sneaking in.
Other things assume more important priority
Right.
are forced upon you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's what happens.
And you assess yourself at the end of the year and like, well,
I didn't
how much
meet
that
it.
goal?
Yeah. Part of that is time management.
Yeah.
It is. It's organizational. But what we're discovering here in some other contexts is making it more formal, kind of formalizing your plans and putting them out. There's some advantage to that because it does create, and that's what I was getting at with sharing it with somebody else. That doesn't mean that you're not going to now have alternative demands put on you that are going to take it away from you. But if it helps you to at least revisit this and go back to it and work a little bit, it's like a win-win in my opinion. I only got half. To me, I do this all the time. I still do this. I've set goals for many years, writing goals or research goals or things like that. And I never, ever, ever have I gotten all the goals I set. It might be for this semester or this summer or whatever it was, whatever the time frame. It doesn't bother me at all because if I get half of them done, I'm being productive. So I think I would take that mindset to something like this. If I have 4 or 5 goals and I end up getting a couple of them done, then you've got those done, and now it's a matter of why didn't I get those done? What could I do to get these other goals done? If they're really high priority, continue to be high priority for you. But you're right, the balance issue is it's a major issue. There's no real solution to that I can figure out except finding in some niche areas where you're teaching in particular. I think you have more control over that if you do, right? Because they hired you to teach certain courses, and if you can become comfortable in that, then the time you're freed up on. See, that's why I listed all that stuff you have to do in the teaching domain. What happens is I finally am comfortable in teaching the classes that, and it's the first time I've taught it, and I want to make sure I'm doing it successfully. I want to make sure that the students like me, et cetera, whatever. And now I have this free time, and I'm going to devote it to stuff I've been neglecting, which is my research or my service or my other class that isn't going so well. Whereas, really, ideally, it's that course that I'm now comfortable teaching. There's other things that that's what's happening, I think, at the university level now. I think our faculty settle in to being comfortable in teaching, and it works pretty well. The students seem to be learning. There's not too many D's, F's, or W's in my particular section or whatever that may be. But then we don't go the extra step of what could I do to improve that, make that a better class. Why would I want to do that when I've got all these other demands that I've been neglecting as I've gotten to settle into my teaching success? Welcome to academia.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is, and that's what makes it difficult. Completely agree. If you haven't realized that, what's coming for you. Don't need to cast a black shadow over this discussion. No, it's a skill. I mean, you just gotta. It's highly dependent on your departmental culture and the expectations of your department, because if research is more. Dr. McPhee says teaching is the most important criterion, and it will always be a teaching university. Okay. If you take him at his word, you could, but if your promotion and tenure committee in your department doesn't, then there's problems. Absolutely right. If they're not happy with your research productivity or your service activity. It's really complicated. That is complicated. Yes.
So how much do you recommend then, again, thinking about the long view, I took this position because I've been in academia for a couple of years, a non-tenure track position, but basically been doing the work for a tenure track position, and now I'm committed to being sure that I get tenure. So kind of thinking about that long view of 6 years down the road or whatever, is it worth trying to develop something like this, like the teaching plan and also the research and service plan, that far in advance? Or do the goals just get so broad when you try to look that far ahead that it's
I think that's
largely
too far.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I think the best is a year, at least initially. For me, no. I've been here 23 years or whatever. I could do more of a 3-year or a 5-year plan and not have that affect me negatively. And I do that kind of naturally. But when you're on tenure track or a new person, I think it's really the more concise and the more closed-ended, the better.
But I found myself running into, I've already got deadlines for a year and a half away. And I'm looking at for grants, papers to submit, things like that. And so that time really starts to expand. I don't know.
Well,
I'm just not dedicating too much.
I really like this chair just laid out for year one, what you expect.
That's great.
So I can go by this and make my plan.
Yeah.
My input is, we can,
Yeah.
boom, like I said, he gave that to me and I said, thank you. He took all the mystery out of this.
Yeah.
And he listed what he expects in year one,
Okay.
for the full academic year.
So that's a really good,
That's
then, if you're going to now do a
I
plan,
wish they would do it for you because,
if you're going to do a plan now, Tyler, like that, and it's consistent with that, I would look to that and cross-check to see if it's consistent with them. But what you're saying is,
you don't have it laid out, I guess. Maybe you have to go.
Well, part of ours is our department is, there's different expectations for the molecular folks than there are for the ecology folks. And I'm actually in the math science ed PhD, so my research is education, so there's certainly different level of expectations.
Okay.
So
yeah,
for my
and
writing,
different politics and dynamics about that.
and that's a whole other,
Yeah.
Well, that was tailored to me specifically.
So maybe,
But they only hired 2 people. I don't know how big or busy your department's been. I love that.
Yeah, that's really good.
your old department head too, so she's still learning, and I think
Yeah.
setting our own goals for the department.
Yeah, but the figure, I mean, you're talking about a balance issue for at least like the next 3 years almost, and you do have built in like the 3rd-year review. That's a requirement. Okay, so if you're on tenure track, you need a 3rd-year. You will get a 3rd-year review. That's why I say not the 6-year, because you'll figure that out. That's plenty of time to determine whether I need to adjust and stuff. And I think developmentally, if you're on tenure track, it's better. That's what happens anyway, in my opinion. But it's better to get a handle on your teaching responsibilities and figure out how much time and effort that I'm going to be able to do. And if you come in with teaching experience already, which I did, so I was able to then not devote as much time for that, and then I could do my other things that are required. That's what happens. I think that realistically, that's what most all of our new faculty do. Even if you have previous teaching experience, you got to figure out what you're comfortable with and what are my other demands. So we should follow that. I wouldn't worry so much about if this is your first semester here. I want to, because it goes back to what McPhee said. If you're not teaching effectively, then it's less likely you're going to stay here. That's the bottom line. Whatever your status or situation is, that's going to be the case. So you want to ensure that, but then it becomes, well, what is it effective? Could I be more effective? Yes. I think everybody, all of us, in every class we teach, we can be more effective. Where do we stop? You know, we already have too much to do. Now they're asking us to do more. You know, yeah, okay. So it's a really difficult question, that balance. Okay, so now my question is, would you like the digital version of this? Because that's one of the things we use the sign-in sheet for. Is if y'all would like that, then you don't have to write it out. You can keep a copy of that. Or if you want the full version, either way, I can send you the full. If you're, are you tenure track?
Yeah,
Frank,
can you send them both?
I can't. Well, the full one is just this one plus the research and the service, and then there's a fourth category that goes with that. So if all of you want that, I'll just make a note and send it out to you. So you've already got that.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to send it again if you don't want to try to remember.
That's okay. I'll make a note. Yes, and then if you then have a draft of that, the next step, whether or not you're participating in the faculty development program, is to come and discuss that if you want. And then you can discuss with me. And I can give like general stuff, but I don't know your department. I do maybe. I know a lot about other departments and stuff, but I don't know it as well, and what are the critical things. So that's why it's crucial to share with a member of the promotion and tenure committee at least, or your mentor, or your department chair, or all of the above. Because if I'm getting conflicting in my department, there's conflicting. We have fairly frequent times where the chair disagrees with the committee. And that's okay, because that's the structure we have in place. You look at both what the chair's recommendation is and what the committee's recommendation is. So if I'm a new faculty member, I want to know, what do they think? Am I doing this right? Is there too much? Should I devote less to this or more to that? And then I'll see what the chair thinks. And if there's discrepancies, good to know. Yeah. I might find the middle point of what both of them are saying, so that I'm not dinged by either of them. Right. Gamesmanship and political and all this other stuff. Okay. There we go.
You want us to fill this out and leave this here?
If you would, there's a box in the back. That's our little eval. This is just for our record keeping kind of stuff, of course. We have to justify our existence. Don't we all? I'll do that right now, actually. Go ahead and send the full plan to Tyler and Frank. Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. You want me to just leave this here?
That box in the back is what we.
That's nice meeting you guys.
You do. See you again sometime.
Yes. Next campus.
Okay. Good luck.
I wrote that down for you. If you've got a minute,
Oh, perfect.
when I finish with Tammy, I'll show it to you. If
Okay.
you gotta go, that'll,
Stop this. Yeah.
just pull it. That should help, if not,
Sure. Thank you.